the World Healing Tour movement with your host, Noah Crane. Heal yourself, heal the world. Hello, and welcome to the World Healing Tour podcast, where our mission is to help you heal yourself so you can heal the world. Hi, my name is Noah Crane. Each week, we will bring you tips and tools and inspire you to live your most empowered and joyful life. I'm also the author of the book, The Grass is Greenest Where I Am. That's right, because the grass is greenest where you are when you say so. When you choose to live in a place of no comparison, no competition, and no scarcity. When you choose to live in your own love and light and share your unique gifts with the world, because we're all unique. And that is why it's called World Healing Tour. Because when you heal yourself, you truly create that ripple effect for others to follow and to heal as well. Each week, we have incredible people to come into the studio and pour into you and into your life and help you on the journey, because we all need each other. And together we are one. I always say that, WON. Together we rise. My guest today, I'm super excited about. Not only is he probably the most amazing man I know in this world, and I can vouch for that personally. Also because he's just very down to earth and very modest. He doesn't have an ego. He does everything with just kindness and love. And you would ask me, how do you know that, Noah? Because I am so blessed to be married to this man and be in his presence every single day of my life. He's been one of my biggest teachers. I've learned and grown so much from being married to him. We've been married for 29 years, and I can't wait for you to meet him. Welcome to the World Healing Tour, Dr. Stephen Crane.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sweetheart. And it's always a pleasure to engage with you, and I love you, and it's been an honor and a privilege to be married to you. So this is an excitement.
Well, this is so great because I know you're not one that wants the microphone in front of you. It's not your thing. You like to be in the background, always, cheering me on and pushing me forward. And I'm so blessed to do that. But, who you really are and what you've done in your life is such an example for so many of you viewers out there and so many of us. And it's been such a learning lesson for me to be married to you, because you have a different way of handling situations, a different way of handling life that is not common, right? And because we're all very emotional beings, I could speak for myself. We all have emotions, and our emotions can drive us in certain ways, but our emotions can also get us in a lot of trouble. And so we have to learn to not always come from emotions, to learn to come more from the logic brain, right? And to be able to think things through, to learn to pause and not to be so reactive. And I think that's something that I've really learned so much from you. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about, why do you think that so many of us are so reactive, and where did you learn to be so calm? Were you just born that way?
I don't know if anybody's born that way, but my experience has been I had a really very great role model and very powerful female figure in my life, my mom. She was an entrepreneur before, there was such a thing. She had her own business, a gift shop, and things like that. But she'd come from trauma. She was a Holocaust survivor, and she had her issues. And I saw the way she managed in life was very emotional. She was an extremely emotional, very passionate human being. And I saw that it caused her a lot of stress and a lot of pain sometimes too. So I learned to adopt and say, you know what, I really don't want to suffer like that. You know what I mean? There's got to be a better way for me to handle things in life. So I decided to just say, I'm going to approach life in a different kind of a way. It's not, things are just really not that critical. You know what I mean? It's not like
A big deal.
a big deal. It's not like a fire. It's not like life and death. But a lot of times we react as if it is.
Yeah, and about your mom. So you said it caused her a lot of pain and suffering. Can you go a little deeper into how she suffered from being the way she was, because she was so emotional? How did it affect her life?
Well, one of the major things that I remember is she used to, get involved with these people and be friends with them, and And she felt at some point that they weren't listening to her, they weren't treating her the way that she wanted them to treat them, and she would basically get so upset that she would say, I'm not, I don't want her, she's not my friend anymore. You know what I mean? It's like she just kind of dropped them as a friend, you know. So, and I saw that that caused her a lot of pain and suffering because, you know, she had put hopes and a connection to these people, and now she had to disengage from them, and that caused her a lot of pain and stress.
So she didn't really want to disengage from them, but she did because she was at, where did that come from?
Well,
Why did she feel like she needed to disengage?
Well, she felt slighted, I think. You know, I think that she felt slighted that she had some expectations. Obviously, we have all of expectations of our relationships, and she had some expectations that were obviously not met, and she felt a certain way. And I think part of that, you know, she was dealing with a lot of women and families that, you know, had, you know, they were more well-to-do than we were, you know. And I think she felt sometimes she took it personally, like they were maybe looking down on her, that kind of a thing. So that just really affected her, and it just really caused me a lot of pain to see her stressed like that.
So you're saying that watching your mom go through what she was going through taught you something. What did it teach you?
I love you. I taught me to, you know, to approach life in a different way, not to be so emotional. You know, that it's really like it created in me the desire to want to see a bigger picture. Like, you know, is this really in the scheme of things? Okay, in the entirety of the experience, is this something that's really important? Do we really need to have that kind of violent reaction to it? And that perspective has really helped me a lot go through life with more kind of flow and ease.
And we all want more flow and ease. So this is great. So watching your mom, your mom was your biggest teacher in a way because you really learned like things that you want to incorporate into your life because we know she was an amazing woman. I know personally. She was an amazing woman. So you kind of learned things that you wanted to incorporate into your life and things that were, you're like, I'm going to leave that aside. And how were you able to make that decision of just saying this is yes and this is no? Was it like a logical decision you made to yourself?
Well, like I said, it was, you know, I desperately wanted to find a different way of approaching life, you know, because I did say that's not working. It's not going to work for me. I'm really not interested in having all those chaotic ups and downs. So I was searching for something more level to create my life as a more flow. So, you know, I did a lot of reading when I was a kid. I read a lot of like science fiction and fantasy and stuff, so a lot of heroes and stuff. And you know, as you reading, you kind of like I kind of got into the persona and character of that, and I was like, well, what if I approach life in this way? What if I approach life in that way? And just kind of glean things from these heroes and these main characters that I thought would serve me better.
That is genius to be able to watch superheroes and to extract powerful tools from them to learn life lessons so you can, you know, react differently in your life and handle your life in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, you know, and like I said before, it's really, you know, having a bigger perspective. You know what I mean? Because we get very uptight on the minutia of life, like all these little things that are happening in our life. That this is the most important thing ever, and we magnify it and we blow it up, and it's like, oh my God, this is. When you really think about it, though, and you step back and you take a minute and you say, hey, you know, what's the reality here? And in my case, I've been able to use that wisdom, okay, to approach life, and it makes me so much happier because, you know, I don't have to react and be all caught up in the little things in life.
I love that. And what's your favorite quote? Don't sweat.
Uh, well, two of them. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Because what? It's all.
Because it's all small, yeah.
Okay.
And there's another one. It was from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Really cool series that they would hitchhike onto these spaceships, and this guy who was hitchhiking held to this little notebook that on it was written "Don't panic." So between those two, I've developed, you know, an approach to life that it's really serving me.
Yeah, I love that. And you really do carry that into every area of your life, right? Because at home, you never bring your work and your anything, any frustration home to us. You know, we always have a really, you know, you bring the peace every time you walk home and you bring the love and you never bring the work stuff with you. It stays at work, right?
Right.
And I think part of it is you don't want to stress us out, and part of it you're like you're not going to bring negative. You're not into spreading negative. You do it very consciously,
Right.
saying like, "Hey, I don't. This is not something I'm gonna handle it, but I'm not gonna stress
Right.
everyone around me." And then at work, you've been a dentist now for how many years?
Almost 29 years now.
Almost 29 years. An incredible holistic dentist. And you do that with your patients. You bring the love every day to the office. You have people that have been with you, working with you for years, and you bring that love to every single patient you encounter because you really want people to live in that lifestyle. And you kind of see it as a mission to also spread that kind of. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Quick comment though about bringing things home. You know, I really believe that you have to kind of put things where they belong. Okay, when I come home, nobody at home had anything to do with my frustrations at work. So why, that doesn't make sense to spill that over and create that kind of chaos. And I'm a person who likes to search for peace. I like peace. I've dedicated my life to trying to be in a peaceful place. So like when I deal with my patients, especially the ones that are super, super anxious and they come in, we set up a nurturing environment. Everybody is so nice. Patients are constantly thanking me and expressing how kind and nice everybody that works with me are. And I'd like to, I see that in order for them to get the treatment that they need, okay, they need to shed a lot of that anxiety in order to be able to get there. I've seen such horrible neglect because of that, and it kills me. It really kills me because it's unnecessary. Somebody did something once, and now the person's like ruined. And so we bring them back slowly but surely to a place where they feel comfortable and they have trust and they know that things are going to be okay, and we allow them to get their treatment and get better and feel better.
And you also, I know you like to talk to your patients about nutrition and all kinds of things. You really like to, kind of pour positivity in them. Why is that
Yeah.
so important to you?
Well, I think it's important to empower people in general. I think that people so often feel so disempowered. They don't understand the power that they hold, and they don't understand the choices that they can make to improve their from going from disempowerment to empowerment. I see that like something that we were talking about the other day about how I ask people how you doing, and they go, I'm hanging in there. And I'm like, I get this, obviously get this picture of the cat on the postcard where it's hanging on by its last nail. And I'm like, dude, you got to do better than that. There's no way. I go, maybe you're fantastic. I go, isn't it up to you what you are? And it kind of changes. I love being able to change a person's thought process. And say, hey, let me think. I can think about this a little differently, and be more empowered. I love that.
Yeah, that feels really good. Yeah, so just, having them, you know, trust the process and feel more comfortable and, and actually be happy to come in and get the work done, not be all anxious about it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's really the juice. I call it the juice in my profession. Is when people come in and they think something's going to be horrible. They think this is going to be. They've been like not sleeping for nights and stuff like that. And then when it's over, they're like, "Oh my God, thank you, doc." They're hugging me. They're smiling. It's like this was nothing like I thought it was going to be. So I mean, that's just a beautiful thing. These show to demonstrate to these people that the things that they have to do for their health does not have to be something that they need to be anxious about.
I love that. That's great. Why do you think so many of us come from fear? Because fear is a really driving force in a lot of our areas, right? We tell ourselves these stories and these things that keep us from really moving forward, from having that peace in our lives. Why do you think it's such a common denominator in us that it just seems like it's a very strong thing?
Well, it is. It is. Basically, they say the two motivating factors in a person's life is either fear or the pursuit of pleasure. Okay, so most people though are more motivated by fear because they don't want to go through all that stuff. So I think part of our biology and part of our chemical makeup in our brain is like we need to preserve ourselves. We have survival instinct. So that's why things that are not so crucial and life threatening, okay, since we don't experience those daily, we take other things and we replace that with with something that's not as strong and not as um, potentially what's the word I'm looking for? Potentially catastrophic. So we do that as a habit. You know what I mean? And I think that unfortunately, I really think that there's a societal pressure, okay, to focus on fear. And like you look for any advertising, okay, what they're doing is they're scaring the crap out of you because they want you to buy their product, they want you to do their service, so it perpetuates, and people they live from their past, and if they've had something bad, they think, oh, that's going to be the way it's going to be all the time now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. That, we just come up from a lot of past. And if we're not in the present moment, it's very easy to get depressed, to get anxious, because we're still in that past and in their traumas, right? Because a lot of us have had traumas. I think you're one of the only people that hasn't had much trauma in your life. Well, you've had some trauma. You had the accident, right? Let's talk about your accident. You did have some trauma. It wasn't like childhood trauma growing up, but it was trauma where somebody hit you by a car with a car.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about that. So you're in dental school.
Yeah.
Take us back to that day.
Yeah, well, I was walking across the street coming from school, across Mass Ave in Boston, and I crossed the northbound traffic, no problem. There was a median there, and then I was waiting to cross over to go to my apartment, and I was looking around up and down the traffic, even though it was one direction, and I saw that there's a light with 3 lanes up to the right of me, okay, and they were all red. So the people had stopped at the light, and then there was one car that went from the middle lane to the turning lane, okay, and he had his left turn signal on. So I'm like, he's obviously making a left. He's away from me. I'm not gonna have to deal with him. I take a couple of steps, and I found that he just did that to get around the car, and he sped through the red light, and he ran me over. So I was a pedestrian, and he knocked me over with his car, and I flew in the air, and I fell down on the street, and I pulled myself to the other side, and yeah, it was crazy.
That had to be so traumatic. And I didn't know you at the time.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, so let's talk about you're in the middle of dental school, 6 months away from graduating dental school, and here you are having this traumatic, life-changing accident.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, it was life changing, and obviously the first initial thing was I got to heal. I got to heal. So I took some time to heal. It actually took me almost a year to walk without any kind of assistance after that. And it was really fun because I had to survive, so I had to do all kinds of things. So one of the things I used to do, I used to drive delivery, and I would drive with my as a delivery driver, and I would drive with my left foot because my right foot was broken, right? And so I couldn't drive that in order to get there and deliver pizzas on crutches and on a cane, so that I would have some kind of form of income. So it's there's a little bit about resilience there, where you just kind of one of the things about not going so emotional and chaotic when things happen is basically I think you got to just do what you have to do, right? So you take the emotion out of it and you say, okay, I'm going to do this because this is what I need to do, and I'm not going to stress and be crazy about it. Obviously, it was traumatic, and obviously it took a lot. There was a lot of healing that had to happen, and not only that, but it delayed my training for 2 years because when I finally was able to go back to the school and say, hey, I need, I want to finish my dental school. What do you need from me? And they said, well, you're gonna have to go for two more years of school because things have changed since you were in the accident.
Wow. So here you are, you're in a traumatic accident. How long afterwards did you get a job to work after the accident?
I can't say 100%, but obviously I had to heal enough, but it wasn't very long because I was on my own, and I didn't have any other way to support myself, so I had to.
So a few months after the accident, you're getting a job, you're a delivery driver, you're driving with a cast on your leg with the other foot just so you can deliver pizzas, right?
Yeah.
So you can have some money come in. Like you weren't sitting there, poor me, this just happened to me. How am I going to get on with my life? I'm just about to be a doctor. And you weren't thinking, you weren't there, right? You weren't like feeling sorry for yourself.
Right. I mean, because the circumstances were the circumstances. That's not changeable. But the remarkable and amazing thing that the human mind has is they can process those circumstances however it wants. We can process it however we want to. And so why not process it in a way that creates peace, happiness, and joy in our lives?
I love that. And so part of it you're saying is acceptance, because you had to get to a place where you accept whatever happened to you. You didn't resist, you didn't fight, you just said, I surrender, I accept this, and what do I need to do next?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's a big part of how I approach things. Is the acceptance of, and not the acceptance that you lay down and die. It's just the acceptance like, okay, this is how things are. Now what do I do? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
more of so you can see that disengages you from the emotion, so allows you to have an action plan, allows you to put things in place, and then you can work your way out of it much quicker.
No, I think that's so powerful and incredible that you were just able to put one foot in front of the other. And I kind of have this picture in my head, like you're going, something happens, you had these plans, but now I'm going to go this way, or I'm going to go this way, or I'm going to choose this way. Like just choice, right? Like you're just going to have to choose again and not be attached to the past thing that you were attached to, because you're not the same person and you're not in the same place and your life is not the same. So whatever was going on before, we have to learn to detach from it so we can move in a different direction and not get stuck, because I think a lot of us get stuck on that one thing because we're so hyper focused of like this is where we were, this where we were going, this is the expectation, this is what was supposed to happen, that we're not even expanding our mind to see, oh, well, not anymore. You
Right.
got to choose again, choose
Right.
again. And I just feel like life keeps telling us choose again, choose again, choose again. And I feel like you're very good at choosing again.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And it's really, really cool if you open yourself up to what's possible, kind of flow with what's happening as opposed to being stuck on, a lot of people don't get, take a long time or don't get what they want because they're stuck on it has to happen in a very specific way. If it's not happening this way, it's not happening, which is totally untrue. It happens, but maybe it's happening, you may have to go here and then swim over this way and then swim over that way, but and so it's really fun. It's really fun to if you step back and think about it, that's part of the thing I was saying about your mindset, about how you see things is, why not think about it in a fun way? Like, hey, this is fun. We're just kind of seeing what opens up and we're going to, respond to that, and we're going to work in concert with what's showing up right now.
And make it fun.
And make it fun.
So how do we make it fun? How do we make it fun? How does your brain work that says, hey, this just happened to me, but I'm going to make it fun?
Well, I mean, it's obviously it's a practice. Now that's kind of how my mind works. I'm a fun-loving guy and stuff like that. I remember I had a friend of mine in dental school that even when I would study, when I would do things, I'd have the TV on, I'd have a radio on, I'd have something going on to make it just more enjoyable for me for the process. So I've always had that bent of mind to do that kind of a thing. But I think it's something that you can learn and you can practice. And it's really about perspective. So if you see that's like, okay, maybe this is for the better, or what if I do this? Ask yourself some questions that bring different thoughts into your head instead of just sitting on being woe is me.
I love that. Ask yourself questions. I'm learning, you guys here. Are you guys learning something here? I hope you're learning. I'm definitely learning. And I've been married to this man for 29 years, and I'm sitting here learning. I like that. So you ask yourself questions to bring you there. Can you give us an example of that? Like, can you come up with like a situation and what kind of questions you would? What I want to get in your brain. I want to learn what's
Good
going
luck,
on there
good luck.
and how the questions.
Good luck.
So let's go ahead and.
Tell me when you get lost. I'll help
I
you
know.
get out.
I'm still trying. All right, because this is you guys. This is deep stuff. This is good stuff. I mean,
Yeah, it's to try to explain. Okay, the best I can do is like, one of the questions I ask myself: how does this serve me? Okay, or how can I make this fun? Or what about this is positive? What about this is like I said, serving me? For example, like I used to really fret over spaces in my schedule. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make my daily quota. People are just canceling. I have these big spots in my schedule. It used to freak me out. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what if I think about this as it's an opening for something better, something happier, more joyful, a better thing to come into the life. So it's an opening up a space for better things to happen. And once I turn that little corner, I don't stress about that anymore. I'm actually anxious, and I'm not anxious, but excited about what's going to be filling that space. Like, what am I going to be? Like, what was that preparing for? You know what I mean? So it's all about how you frame, how you think about things, what you ask yourself. I think that makes a huge difference in how you live your life and how you enjoy your life.
That's awesome. No, that's great. I mean, perspective's everything. Wayne Dyer says when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And this is exactly what you're doing. You're literally molding the perspective. You're not just looking differently at the perspective, you're molding it to fit you so you're not stressed. You're molding it to you so that it becomes fun, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And who's it up to how I see things? It's totally up to me. I mean, it's totally 100%. How I look, how I perceive, okay, what I think is 100% up to me. So why not do stuff that makes me happy? Why not think things that empower me, okay, that create passion and happiness? Why not? And I think that we just get so into the rut of things and so into a pattern of doing things and thinking a specific way, or maybe we were brought up, around those types of things, and it's so freeing to break free of that and say, I have total control over the 6 inches between my ears. You know what I mean? Total control over that. So I don't have to think anything I don't want to think. I can think whatever I want to think about a specific situation. And why not choose something that empowers me?
That is so freeing, and I'm sure people out there are learning a lot just from this conversation. I love it. It's so great. So, as I said, we've been together for a long time. We're very blessed to be married to this. It's like
Um,
truly a gift. And I'm very proud of just the fact that I finally get to share you and more of your thoughts and your thinking with others, because you're not out there like sharing the way I am, and you really do live that life day to day to day. So what I wanted to ask you about was when I lost my thought. Okay, this is what I want to ask you about. So when we got married, we have kids and all that, and the way you handle yourself is so nice. And what I love is that I was going to say before that I kind of lost my track of thought, is that you said yes to being a part of our book, The Grass Grows Where I Am. Okay, we have a book coming out with 17 authors called The Grass Grows Where I Am. And it's, my first book, The Grass is Greenest Where I Am, and then we came out with an anthology book with 17 people. Each author wrote a chapter about why the grass grows where they are, and shared stories and the way they live their lives and how they spread the love and light in the world. And we're very excited about this book. It's coming out, I think, in October sometime. So you guys look out for our amazing book, The Grass Grows Where I Am. And you're part of the authors, and which I love so much, that I get to share your thoughts and what you're doing in the world with others. Why did you say yes, first of all, to being in our book? Because I know he was like the last one to come in, you guys. He was the last one. And I kept saying, I'm probably not doing another book. Like, this is it. And if you really want to share yourself, this is your opportunity, and finally, like at the 90th, he said yes. And I was very happy, because I didn't want to make you do anything. I wanted you to come from you, but you felt a calling. So why did you say yes?
Yeah, well, first of all, how do I say no to you, right? But, well, really, it's like, I guess, we all have certain resistance, to things. It was something new. And like you said, I've conducted myself more as a background kind of guy. I'm a supporter, I'm a cheerleader, supporter, so to go out in the limelight and to be like that was not something that I was actually actively pursuing. But then eventually what clicked in was that, when Noah tells me to do something, she's usually right. So I figured, why not continue with that success formula and say, okay, I'll sit down and see what what I can do. And it was really just being open to the possibility, and and it just took a little persistence for me to feel comfortable enough to sit down and say, okay, let me see what I can come up with. You know what I mean? And once I did, it actually came pretty flowed pretty nicely, you know, and I'm excited. I'm really excited about it because I get to be with a lot of really amazing people who are doing really amazing things in the world, heart-centered, beautiful people. Of course, because you attract that. You've been doing that for years, and so it's really nice to be. And I've always loved being in that community that you have with with the Holistic Chamber, and then with the events that you were doing with the World Healing Tour. Just bringing some really fantastic, beautiful people together, and I just love kind of basking and bathing in that energy. So I said, why not be part of this? And be see what I can do. And maybe somebody out there can feel resonant that what I say resonates with them, and that maybe makes a difference for them.
Yeah, what I love your story in the book. Like, I'm so proud of what you wrote. It's so inspiring, incredible. Really kind of gets people a glimpse into who you are and how you think and how they can, make their life more fun and think in a more fun way. So you did an amazing job with your chapter, and I'm just so happy that you said yes to this project. It's such a fun project, and like we said, everybody that came in is just, I felt like the right people came together.
Right.
And it's really beautiful. And what I love is, again, we've been married for a long time, and just sharing, how we conduct ourselves in our marriage, right? And teaching other men, because I see you as like a men coach, like a men mentor that can actually guide so many other men to how to handle themselves better in relationships, right? How to not, react to everything, right? Because, that's why there's so many problems in marriages, right? There's the husband and the wife, and one person says one thing and the other person reacts to it. And you're not a very reactive person, which, I think helps us a lot to have such a peaceful, incredible marriage, because I can be more emotional and you are more the calm. And so let's talk a little bit about that, and how, give us some advice to, men out there that are watching. Like, how can they, what are some relationship tips that you can give?
Oh my goodness! Always listen to your wife. No. Right, no, yeah. Listen, well, I think really it comes down to, kind of boil it down to, like I said before, what's important. Is it more important for me to be right, or for me to have peace? You know what I mean? What's the most important thing? Take out the garbage, do the dishes, big deal. So do what you have to do to support each other in the marriage. And always be grateful, and always and you really want to empower the people you're with. You know what I mean? Even especially the person you dedicated your life to. You want to empower them. You want to support them. And I think that what happens, people get into ego, into control, into a lot of other things come in that are just not necessary, and it's poison. It's toxic to a relationship. All those types of things. Now, it's one thing if it doesn't work. I'm all for, like, if it's not working, that's a whole other story. Okay, but not because she made me do this, or there's a lot of extraneous stuff that gets in the way, where people are just, it's really not that important. People, it's just not that important. You know what I mean? She said this, she wrote this, whatever. Who cares? Who cares? This is a person you decide to love and spend your life with. So, you do things for each other. Okay, I do things for you, you do things for me, and we support each other. And I think that's what it is. It's a cooperative. You know what I mean? It's a relationship where there's give and there's take. There's always, and we look out for the other person. Always be empowering and supporting the other person, and they should always be empowering and supporting you. And I think that's a recipe for success.
I love that. Well, you do that so well, in the relationship, of course, and I'm so blessed and I'm grateful for that every day. And that what you said about being grateful, I mean, gratitude is so important, right? Because sometimes when we have the people closest to us, we kind of forget to be grateful for them daily, right?
Hmm.
And they really are the ones that, they are the foundation, they are the water in your life, right? And we take it for granted, and learning not to take that for granted and to keep a grateful heart, I think makes a huge difference. But let me bring something else into this mix. How about the fact that so many people are very insecure, men and women, right? And so the insecurities can cause problems, right? Because I know that I could tell you, honey, I'm going to this place or that place. You're never going to ask me, really, who is it with? When are you going to be home? Like, you trust me 100%. And you don't even, it's not even in your mind to like, oh, is she doing something wrong? Or I need to hold the leash. Or like, you have that complete trust where so many people are very insecure and they don't have that kind. Where does that come from? Can you, give us some tips how to be more secure in ourselves so we're not feeling like we have to control the whole world to be able to feel secure within ourselves? Because I see that a lot in relationships.
Yeah, no, I see exactly what you're saying. Um, it might be. I'm finding it a little difficult to really to make it as a stay because I'm in a certain place, right?
Mm.
I'm in a certain place where I'm like, you know what? That's the way I am. If you're going to do something, you're going to do something, um, and it's not going to. My insecurity, my anxiety, my fear is not going to change what you do. If you're going to do something that's not cool with me, okay, then I have a responsibility to do what I'm going to do about that. Okay, but I'm not going to be anxious and I'm not going to be stressful and I'm not going to be because you're going to do what you're going to do, and then I'm going to do what I'm going to do in
Does it
response.
have to do something with the way your brain works that you're not sitting there making up stories in your head about it? You know what I'm saying? Because I think part of it when you're as you're
Hmm.
speaking
Hmm.
that we come from past, we come from traumas, we come from insecurities, and maybe we already have a pre-story of like things and insecurities from the past. So it seems like you're not in your head a lot, kind of going over or making up stuff. You're just kind of like so present in this moment that the past doesn't matter, the future doesn't matter. Like everything's cool. I'm gonna have fun.
No, that's absolutely true, and so it's difficult for me to speak to people who've had those kind of traumas and had those kind of things. Obviously they have to work through those kind of things, so that it doesn't affect them. Maybe they need more than just a mindset tweak. Because they may have deeper issues than that. But I've never been a jealous person. I've never been an envious person. It's like you have what you have, I have what I have. You're no better than me. I'm no better than you. Basically it's just like we're on an even keel. If you do something that I don't like, I don't have to deal with you. If you do something I do like, then we can hang out. You know what I mean? So it's more of that kind of a thing because like I said, I saw my mom stressing about stuff. I'm saying I'm not doing that. I'm not doing there's nothing good's going to come out of it for me doing that. You know what I mean? So like I said, the people who've had these kinds of things in past that coming from that, yeah, they got to work through it. And they got to figure out how to kind of shed that, how to work through that, and not be like that. I don't want to make it seem like it's you just have to snap your fingers and things like that. I mean, the changing in how you view something, I think, can be that easy. You know what I mean? But sometimes there's deeper issues to handle.
Yeah, no. And let's talk about your dad. Your dad was a very calm person, he was a nuclear and chemical engineer, right? And he was a very down to earth, very calm person. He
Mm,
wasn't emotional.
no,
So maybe you modeled after him in a way,
sure,
you know?
sure.
Um, so you had really good role models around you. You were very blessed. You grew up with a lot of family, a lot of love, surrounded by cousins and uncles and
Hmm.
aunts, which really makes a difference for the security of
Hmm.
growing up that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, my dad was pretty amazing. I used to think, I wonder what it would be like to be in his head one day, because he had a master's in nuclear engineering, and he had a PhD in chemical engineering. So the guy was brilliant. And yeah, he was very, of course, as a kid, I would always test his coolness. You know what I mean? I would go out, and he very, very rarely, maybe twice that I can remember, that he loses cool a little bit, and not like bad. He just kind of like raised his voice, kind of thing. So yeah, like you said, it was more like a pull and a push. It was like a pull towards how my dad was dealing with, and a push from not being like my mom. So that kind of like pulled me in that certain direction to be more just kind of even keeled and more relaxed, But I did see my dad suffer a lot too. He suffered a lot, and the one thing that I've really kind of
Why did he suffer a lot? Can we talk about that?
yeah, well, he suffered because my mom, especially, I don't know if it had a language thing or just because she was so emotional, she would express herself in not the kindest way sometimes. She said, "What's wrong with you? You did this," things like that. That if you're taking things personally if you're accepting that, okay, it could be very damaging to a person's psyche. So I used to see, and I used to see that, she'd speak to my dad like that, and he was an amazing human being. He was great. He was, he helped out. He was just a wonderful guy, but she would speak to him in ways that you could see deflate him, So one of the things that I decided, and I dedicate myself to, is there's no reason to put people down. Use language that's not demeaning. You know what I mean? You can say whatever you want to say and not make the person feel bad about it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
let's talk about that because it's all about how you say it and the tone you use, right? It's not about saying it or not saying it. It's just how it
Right.
lands on the other person. So you could say the same thing, but if your tone is really loud, then it's gonna land really different
Right.
on them than
Right.
if I say with a more soft, more gentle way. And that's something that I had to learn myself as well, like how I express myself. So when I talk to him, it lands in a more gentle way. Because there's no reason. And it really does empower you because, again, you're using choice. You're paying attention to your words. You're paying attention for how you're expressing yourself. And then the other person can express, and you leave an open space for them to come in and express themselves back to you instead of feeling disempowered by that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's very, very crucial. How you approach. Like I'll sit there and before I send a text or an email, I'll go over it and I'll go over it and I'll go over it and I'll go over it to make sure that I'm saying exactly what I want to say in the exact manner that I want to say it. Okay, because I'm looking. When we talk to somebody or we send an email, we have a certain thing that we want to happen, right? One of those things I don't want to happen is for them to be sad, to be anxious, okay, to feel demeaned when they read that or when they hear that. So I'm very careful about how I create my conversation and how I create my written text and emails. You know,
Because you really care about the impact. And that's about raising our consciousness, right? So you're choosing to live in a place that's more conscious so that you can see how it impacts other people because we realize that when we impact people in a positive way, it creates a better world and it creates more
absolutely.
peace and joy for us as well.
Yeah, and like you said too, if somebody's going to yell at you and call you names, are you going to process what they say? No, you're going to be reacting to their tone, you're reacting to their word choices. You're not going to hear their message, that's for sure. So if you want your message to be heard, you need to say it in a palatable way, and something somebody can digest it, and they can give you an accurate response instead of heating them up and getting, because you're not really, it's not working. You're not really getting what you want from there. You're just creating tension and chaos.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're always really good at storytelling. Do you have any good story for us? I'm just curious. Some
Since when?
story where no, you are. You're really good. You're so funny. My husband's like the funniest guy. He's so funny, and he has such good stories. So do you have any like something funny to share? A good story? Like it would just be fun.
Oh man, you just put me on the
I
spot.
put you
That
right
way.
on the spot. But
Yeah, I have nothing.
you guys can wait a second,
I
right?
have nothing
Let him come
planned.
up with
I have
something.
nothing planned
I
at
know,
all.
but it's just the genius in you is
Oh,
just gonna
stop it.
come out.
That's, God bless her. God bless her. I'm having a hard time thinking of something. Um, funny story.
No?
No, I mean it's
About your childhood, about your parents,
well
about
the only thing that
kids growing up, anything.
well the only thing
Just not about the brownies.
okay deal
Not about the
deal
brownies. You
deal
guys, sorry, not about the
deal.
brownies.
Sorry, that's yeah. All right.
Or should we tell them how we met? We can tell them how we met instead.
Yeah, well, that's not a funny story.
It's not a
It's
funny
nice thing.
story, though.
No, well, real quick. I was with I thought this was kind of funny, but I was with my parents. We went to the pyramids in Mexico. And my dad used to love to get the flavor of everything, so he would go ahead and And we took a bus, and we ended up at the end of the pyramids instead of in the front entrance and stuff like that. So they drop us off in the middle of, seems like nowhere. We're crossing this field, and it's totally dark. There's nothing there, and all of a sudden, whoop, I fall into this ditch, this big pit. And they're like, Steve, where are you? What happened to you? I'm like, I'm down here. I'm down here. And it took them about 10 minutes to get me up there. But I thought that was just really funny that we were walking along and then all that disappeared because my dad had to get some flavor. And so he had to do the back roads of where things were. Thankfully, nothing bad happened. But I thought that was a cute story.
That's cute. I never heard that one before. Very cute. Yeah. Like the drowning story, right?
The Johnny story. Are you want a Johnny story? Yeah, that was kind of funny too. I was always a little bit of like I used to kind of push boundaries a little bit. So when I was I actually lived in Mexico for a couple of years because my dad, being an engineer, his company sent him down for a couple of years down there, and my mom was like, "Well, you're not going without us." So we all went down there, and we lived actually in a hotel. It was a really cool experience. And so one day we're at the beach. I think it was Acapulco. We're on the beach, and I don't know if you know, but when they have on the beach these different colored flags. There's a green flags, okay, they demark the area that's safe to go in. And there's yellow flags that are like not as safe, and then there's red flags. They say basically stay out. So so my mom left her best friend to look after us, and me being the curious guy I went kind of towards the end of the yellow spectrum. And I'm walking in, and all of a sudden, this undertow comes and pulls me under. It was like very surreal, I'm like in this wave, and the weirdest thought came to me. I was like, oh, this could be it. It's kind of weird for a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, But I just kind of like relaxed and let it happen. And it came out, and then it came out of the wave. I came up, and I see when I look back is my mother's friend running faster than the lifeguard towards here, and she was screaming, "Your mom's gonna kill me!" She goes, "Get me out." They finally got me out. It was not a big deal, but it was just hilarious that the first thought in her mind was that my mom was gonna kill her. That's my drowning story.
Yeah, and you swam out of it, right, sideways.
Yes, I walked. Yeah, I kind of walked and swam out of it sideways because they told me as they were approaching to go across the undertow instead of against it completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. Get yourself in all these kind of troubles.
Yeah,
But here he is.
Yeah, here I am.
But here he is. He didn't disappear.
Yeah.
All right, so this was so much fun.
Yes.
I had so much fun. You guys didn't hear how we met, but that's going to be for another time.
Yeah.
We're going to do more podcasts together, right?
Of course, since you say so.
All right. All right. So how can people find you, connect with you, be your patient? Go ahead and tell the camera.
Okay, just no info at noahcrane.com. Yeah, no. Well, the name of my business is Conscious Care Dental. So my website is www.consciouscaredental.com. Phone number is 561-798-0825. We work Monday through Thursday, and I'm up in Green Acres, Florida.
And what do you do in the office?
We hang out and party.
Besides that.
No,
What kind of
well,
work?
I'm a holistic dentist, so I do all kinds of dental procedures, including ceramic implants and metal-free restorations, and I take out all the metal the toxic metal fillings that people have put in over the years, and I do basically everything from soup to nuts in the office, and that's me.
Yeah, so you would have a great experience. So thank you. This was so great, honey. I'm so grateful to be married to you. And this was a fun interview. Did you have fun?
Yeah, of course I had fun.
All right, awesome. I loved it.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much for joining us today on the World Healing Tour podcast. Until next time, remember to do these 3 important actions. Number 1, every day remember to have a grateful heart and connect to your gratitude. When you're connected to your gratitude, you're focusing on what's working in your life instead of what's not working. You're connecting to positive feelings and positive emotions, and therefore drawing more positive people, things, and experiences into your life. So have a grateful heart. Element number 2, every day remember to ground in love and compassion. First, love and compassion for yourself, because you got to give it to yourself first. Then learn to share that love and compassion with others. We all want more love and compassion, so we have to give it out in order to receive an abundance of love and compassion in return. And number 3, every day know that you're not alone. This is a guided journey, and I say guided by God. Whether it's God, universe, higher power, source, whatever you call it, just know you're not alone. Just take time to connect to a higher power. I call it God. God will send you messages and messengers to help guide you on the journey. Go within yourself by turning off the noise of others and the noise of the outside world, so you can go more into your inner compass, figure out what you want in your life, and draw more of that into your life, so you can bring out more your creativity and purpose and passion to this world. We're all unique. We all have special gifts to share with each other. Until next time, my friends, have a beautiful week. Namaste. The World Healing Tour Movement with your host, Noah Crane. Heal yourself, heal the world.